The Golden State Warriors begin their title defense on Saturday afternoon, and a key player in that defense is obviously Kevin Durant. For the next few weeks, Durant will have a great deal of impact on the Warriors' chances to repeat. But when the Warriors' postseason run finally ends, Durant's contract with the team will also expire. Although Durant is opting out of his contract, reports indicate he clearly intends to return to the Warriors in 2018-19. The issue facing the Warriors is how exactly to bring Durant back to the team. Haynes at ESPN has laid out 3 possible contract options. Before we get to these 3 options, let's briefly review what Durant has done so far in his career. Fans of the NBA know that Durant was Rookie of the Year in 2008, the league MVP in 2014, led the NBA in scoring 4 times, played in 9 consecutive All-Star games, and was the MVP of the NBA Finals in 2017. Beyond the accolades, though, Durant has produced a great deal of money for his NBA employers. The NBA's collective bargaining agreement caps the salaries of the very best players in the game. Because of this, the very best players can be worth far more revenue than they are paid in salaries. In other words, an economist would say the very best players tend to be exploited, i.e., their economic value is more than their wage. The approach taken to determine Durant's economic value was detailed at Forbes in January. Briefly, the NBA currently shares about half its revenue with its players. According to Forbes, NBA teams generated $7.4 billion in revenue in 2016-17. Therefore, NBA players received about $3.7 billion in revenue. If we assume players are primarily paid to produce regular season wins, salaries are for the regular season, then each of the 1,230 regular season wins in 2016-17 was worth $2.995 million. According to Box Score Geeks, Durant produced 13.4 wins in 2016-17. Given the value of a win, one could argue Durant was worth $40.1 million. His pay, though, was only $26.5 million. Therefore, Durant was underpaid by $13.6 million. Thus far he has produced about 130 wins in his career, and these wins, given the estimated value of a win for each season following the same approach, have been worth about $279.2 million. Durant, though, has been paid only $160.2 million for these efforts. So the 2 franchises that have employed Durant have received about $119 million more from Durant than he has been paid. All of that means Durant has been exploited in his career. And again, the NBA's collective bargaining agreement is designed to make that happen. So we might believe that, given all he has done for his NBA employers, Durant definitely deserves a large contract. Unfortunately for Durant, there is one problem with this approach. The Warriors aren't going to pay Durant for all he has done so far. They are primarily paying him for what he will do going forward. In other words, Durant's being underpaid to date doesn't necessarily mean the Warriors should be willing to overpay for his services in the future. And that appears to be a problem for Durant. Yes, Durant has been great, but on September 29, 2018, Durant will turn 30. Fans may love to believe that their favorite players age like fine wine. But more often, athletes age like milk. Player productivity tends to peak when a player is in his mid-20s. The decline in the later 20s tends not to be very large, but once a player passes 30, that decline tends to accelerate. To simply see this, in 2017-18, there were only 26 players aged 34 or older who logged any minutes in the NBA. Dirk Nowitzki led all these players with 1,900 minutes played. Nowitzki, though, produced only 4 wins. Durant has been an amazing player for much of his career, and he has led his team to many victories. But history tells us that Durant, like every other player in NBA history, will be defeated by time eventually. With this reality in mind, now we can look at the 3 contract possibilities laid forth by Haynes. According to Haynes, Durant could sign a 2-year deal with the Warriors, a 3-year deal or a 4-year deal. With the 2-year deal, the Warriors would pay $30 million 2018-19 and have a player option year worth $31.5 million in 2019-20. If Durant opts out in 2019, though, he could sign a 5-year contract worth $219 million, Haynes says. This option would call for Durant to be paid $49.4 million in 2023-24. At this point, Durant would be 35. This past season, at age 29, Durant produced 10.1 wins for the Warriors, although revenue in the NBA is likely to keep rising for Durant to be worth $49.4 million in 2023-24. We would have to assume A, each win is worth more than $4 million, and B, Durant is able to produce more than 12 wins in a season in his mid-30s. History tells us that it's very unlikely a player will be more productive at 35 as he was in his late 20s. So this first option is great for Durant, but not quite as good for the Warriors. Although the first option is good for Durant, he could get even more money if he signs a 3-year contract with an option after the second season. According to Haynes, a 3-year contract would pay Durant $35.3 million in 2018-19 and $38.2 million in 2019-20. He would then opt out and sign a 5-year contract worth $228 million. Such a contract would have Durant receiving about $50 million in 2024-25, when he is 36. This past season, there were just 17 NBA players who were 36 or older, and none of these produced more than 10 wins. Unless the value of a win surpasses $5 million, which would be outstanding revenue growth, Durant is going to have to produce more than 10 wins when he is 36 to justify a $50 million contract. Again, it's very unlikely Durant is going to maintain what we see at 29 when he is in his mid-30s. The final option is for Durant to simply sign a 4-year contract in 2018 for the maximum allowable according to the NBA's collective bargaining agreement. Haynes reports that contract would be worth $158 million and paid Durant $43.8 million in 2021-22, when Durant is 33. Again, given a reasonable expectation for the value of an NBA win, for that to be worth it for the Warriors, Durant would have to keep producing more than 10 wins per year. All of these scenarios tell the same story. By opting out, Durant is hoping to land a major payday that will pay him many millions well into his 30s. But given the way players wage, the Warriors would be wise to sign him to a shorter contract and see exactly how time impacts Durant. Maybe Durant will defy the tendencies we see in their data and keep producing. Certainly LeBron James has done this. But if Durant is less like James and more like most everyone else, the Warriors would be wise not to guarantee more than $200 million to a player who could beat almost everyone in his 20s, but eventually has to lose in the game against time.